tech stocks reversed and plummeted here today. We're going to look at, is this going to be another dip buy, or are we looking to sell the market here? It is Friday, October 3rd, 2025. If you guys liked the video, maybe give it a like. You can also hype it now, I guess. I think some accounts have that. I don't see it on my own account, but some of you guys have it. That's cool. If you see it, hype it. I hate that word. But anyway, you can also come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading, alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Still got plenty of time here until October OPEX to take advantage of these sales on the website here. And it was a good week for us day trading as well. Let's get into the action here today. It is October 3rd, as we talked about here, and the market's finished flat. And you can see here the Qs basically did a 180 from yesterday. So that it was almost like a bizarro world to a degree. So the spiders were flat yesterday. They closed up 4 points. They closed up 44 cents today on the cash S&P. Spiders closed down 1 penny. But then you had the Qs yesterday with that big surge, up 0.5%, and it was down 0.5% today. So I think it was like 43 basis points yesterday. It was down, up 43 or 44 basis points today, down 42 today. Basically, it doesn't matter, right? They closed up yesterday, closed down today. Where we closed yesterday. Buy or sell here? Well, let's take a look. So where we came from too definitely matters. Specifically, I'm going to look to the spiders and cash S&P. But you can see it's 67.50. We talked about this in the morning video. That would be about as high as we're going to go today. And I did not take this short. I did like float the idea in the trading room. I know some members killed it on that. I just don't like shorting those things because sometimes they take so long when you have that, when you're in an uptrend and you have that top gamma stick. But we got a good dip off of that. And, again, the psychology behind that, just so you know, like a lot of those came in yesterday, like probably before the end of the day. And, if they're 35 points out of the money and they actually go to like at the money and then it starts going sideways, you're going to start losing money, right? So that might be up 300% right here. But slowly it's down. Now it's only up 200%. Oh, now it's only up 150, right? So you close, right? And then the dealer says, okay, well, I don't need that anymore. And then they just dump it out. And again, going into like dealer mechanics too, I talked about this on X earlier today too. This stuff here, just so everybody knows, I know everybody's talking about shorts and short squeeze. And I say the word, I know I've put the word short squeeze in the titles too, because it's just catchier and it's easier to say, but this isn't a short squeeze here. This is gamma squeezing. Like dealers are, market makers are like financing calls with puts. Like they're selling puts to buy calls. The market's getting like greedy, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like 2 weeks ago after the Fed, I think that was really the last of like the actual shorts here. There was, right here with this double bottom, that was definitely some short squeezing ahead of that data last Friday. But this here, this is gamma. Like that's gamma. And there's a big difference. Why does it matter? Because with short squeezes, eventually you run out of shorts and then it rolls over. But they can kind of come right back on, with a good dip. And by the way, the reason I can tell it's gamma squeezing, A, is because I can see it, and B, because there's no holes, right? How do you get a short squeeze, right? You dump it into the hole, they jump in, and then you take it the other way. There's no dips here, right? There's no dips to entice shorts with. But it matters because dealers, eventually they're just going to say no. And that, then it's two parties, right? One party is hedged in holding shares and the other party is long calls. Like, so which side do you think is going to win that exchange? And, we saw it here today with this sell here. That's really all I think today was. Just so I know I just spent probably like 5 minutes explaining all that, but that's what I think all that was today. Additionally, if you look at the IWM, up 75 basis points here, a new all-time closing high daily and the weekly as well. And the same thing with the Dow. So I don't really necessarily see right now any red flags. Additionally, the red flags I did see were KRE and XLF, and I don't know why this is being slow right now, but KRE and XLF, they did bounce back today. And KRE held the area that we talked about that I needed to, which was 62, and I didn't even test it really. So yeah, that's that right now. And we're also going to come into next week pre-OPEX. The flows are going to be more supportive, and that's just, it is what it is here. That's why I said the bears have windows here, and they have to execute in between, or before that happens. So FYI, for the record, just so we're transparent here, I don't normally talk too much about this type of stuff, but for me, I did cover some shorts today, most of them actually, and the reason for that is we just kind of hit a period or an area where it was either a max, the max I was willing to risk on those trades, which honestly pretty good. It was like 2% of buying power in swing trades, which is not that much really, considering the year we've had. Or it was the time frame, and that was really kind of by now is what I wanted to see it done by. So now the market can go down, right? But I just have I have a little bit left as kind of like a hedge, but right now it's going to be difficult here with this pre-OPEX next week. You're going to have even more decay. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go straight up. I talked about this the other day. It does kind of remind me of this period right around here in late August where we made a dip and then a new all-time high really quickly. Didn't really reset the RSI that much, and then it just kind of, I could see us kind of tightening up here. But again, they have a lot of open interest up there at 6,800, and I think they probably want to get that. Now the Qs, they did take a little bit of a spill today, but the Russell and the Dow were up, so that's just dispersion. But I mean, you had AMD here, nasty rejection, down 3%. Little bull trap there. Tesla got whacked. This was actually a nice day trade for us on the 430 Pierce this morning, and then that ended up going lower, so we closed our runner. But yeah, Tesla down. Palantir got hit pretty good, down 7.47. So definitely some Momo stocks coming in. And I have noticed as well, I'm using VIX futures here specifically because you can see there's just been like an algo, probably Jane Street, that just sells it at the 20 MA. And look at this, it's just riding parallel to the 20 MA the whole way. But notice what's happened recently, right? It's a higher low, and the 20 MA is flattening out. The way this rally ends is the same way almost every rally ends, and that is with, okay, so we have market makers financing calls with puts. We have massive like panic fall control funds, right? Fall selling. It just ends when either liquidity becomes scarce, which is why we're watching SOFR. And there has been an uptick in that, which I've already mentioned. Or, something happens, right? These guys, this is the way it works every single time. They get more and more leverage because it keeps working, and so they just keep doing it, and then they pile in. You get a headline that knocks us down 1%, and that's enough to trigger forced selling. If you're levered 50 to 1, it can do that. And Wall Street's a roach motel, so they're all going to be in the same thing all at once. That said, I would be a little surprised if it happened like within the next 2 weeks. That's really my long and short of it right now. Going into the end of the year, everybody's calling for massive melt up, and I even see the bears doing that too. I think it might be a little tough for that to happen if we do get a dip and everybody buys it. So we'll talk about that later, but nonetheless, a lot of windbag jawboning. I should be a Fed head now, but yeah, that's the long and short of it here. New all-time high, new all-time closing high. Small caps were up, so transports were up, so I can't get too bearish here. Right now, SMH down 46 basis points here today. Do have a hanging man, but I mean every single one of those has failed. I'm sure the panic dip buyers will come in on TSM, even though it was it wasn't down today. It's still finished off the highs of the day, so it's basically like a no-brainer to buy that right now. So TSM down. We talked about AMD being down. I think AMAT had there was a headline on AMAT. That's an actual evening star there. on AMAT, but I mean, again, generational dip buy, so who cares? Cloud was down too. A lot of that was Palantir. Microsoft was flat. Some of these cloud stocks, though, are looking really like juicy here. CrowdStrike, Snowflake. Some of these are looking pretty good here on the charts. I mean, look at these weekly, setups here. Patterns are pretty solid. I still think cloud's good. Transports up 58 basis points. So are they finally ready to trend? We'll see. I mean, that's not really much of a trend there, but it is. Look at this. Last 4 weeks, you've got wicks on the lower side. So you have the dominant bear weekly inside bar, but inside of that, you got a smaller bull bar, right? And you have higher lows. So I'm going to say like 60-40 for bulls right now, unless we get like a rejection, like an AMD move, right? Like pops up, bull trap. So throwing that out there. 2-year yields, that did get a little bit of a bid today. And again, if it's not so much the short end here, but if the long end really takes off, that's something else that it could be a problem for SOFR. It could be a problem for the currency markets. So keep an eye on that. But if it goes up slowly, it's not really that big a deal. XHB up 48 cents. The weekly is a little bit better. IYR was up too. It was up nicely today. Yeah, 42. I came off the highs, but still up decently. Again, XLF, was looking dire yesterday. If that finished below the 50, that could have been ugly, right? Because that would have been a bull inside bar failure and the rising wedge confirmation. But it didn't. So there you go. KRE still struggling with 64, but the bottom line is the daily inside bar is holding, and the weekly pattern. I mean, this is still like, it wouldn't be surprised me if that tried to trend up next week. Broker dealers were all over the map, but flat. A lot of talk about like the Gaza deal and all that stuff. Like, oh, that's why the market sold off. No, it was just Gamma Boy stuff. Trust me. Oil was up 29 cents. I think if there was something going on, this would have been up. I think they want to flush this next week, and I would love to get a dip buy on this. XLE up 53 basis points with oil flat. Again, we talked about this energy stocks. They're performing better than the commodity. That's usually a good sign. Like when gold miners start to break out, remember that? Remember a few weeks ago we talked about this, that the gold miners were making new highs, silver miners were making new highs, and the metals were still in range. I don't know why we're getting so much lag here on Thinkorswim here. This never happens. But yeah, you get the idea. OIH, again, a secondary weekly close above 260. It's down, but inside hammer on the weekly, nothing wrong with that. Dollar was all over the map today, closed lower. 98 is still resistance, but this, if there was a better vehicle, an ETF to play the dollar, I would probably be long it right now. I could buy euro, I could short euro futures, but that's kind of tough to do that to do like a swing trade of futures. And there's like EUO, but it's still not very, it doesn't yield much. But I think the dollar is it's waiting for a macro trigger. And I think the market's really offsides on this. Not just from a positioning standpoint, but from a macro standpoint too. The narrative right now is that the dollar is like failing and the whole world is like dumped all their dollars. And that's just like not even true. Yes, we've seen more like de-dollarization, more like hedging out of the dollar than we've seen like probably ever, but it's still like, it's like 1%. Right? If there was a global liquidity event tomorrow, there would be a massive demand for dollars. And I think the market's way ahead of itself. And by the way, we're flat since April. So, but people make it sound as if it's down like 1% a day. Gold had a nice move. Silver was a really nice bonus for us today in the trading room. I held that long from 41.98 yesterday. And we trimmed it down right at 43.91. I had no idea it was going to trend like this today, but it did because the CEO announced a partnership with OpenAI right there. I think it was like $100 billion. So that works out. Sam Altman, you know, thank you. And yeah, you know, it's probably going to 50. So I just have a little baby position left in this, but if it goes to 50, that'd be nice. Platinum up 3.5. I'd like to see the 20 MA catch up a little bit more, but that can go higher. Palladium up 1.5% here. I like the 20 MA tag, but gotta make a higher high here. And copper was up big too, up 2.6. Back above 5. There's a lot of air here. I mean, granted, it's a new contract now, but there's a lot of air here. I remember buying, well, we got to go back to a 4-hour, right? Yeah. I remember buying this this low here. Of course, it was on the front contract, so. But yeah, anyway, nice rebound. Bitcoin, new highs. I knew they were going to do this. I should have just bought it Sunday night. But yeah, new highs. That gamma squeezed a little bit this week too. Ethereum did get rejected at 35 on ETH, which was predictable. But yeah, it's still pretty good here. So this is an important point. So the daily chart had a failure, right? That's why we went lower. But the reason why it didn't break down, I think, is because the weekly, which is more dominant, the bigger time frame, was still just fine. I'm still, you know, I wish it could have just gotten down to that trend line. That would have been a beautiful buy, but is what it is. So textbook little wedge breakout. Now here's the problem. It's not a problem, but here's where I would say it could be a problem. If you break out and then you get back in this range here, especially on a weekly close, yeah, that would be problematic. But right now, just treat it as it's bullish until it's not. Same thing with the market here. So yes, it's overbought. It's this, that, the other thing, but you know, I know from experience it can go higher. So we get a sell signal, it'll be pretty obvious if you ask me. So anyways, guys, I will wrap it up here. Again, you guys take care. Don't forget to come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I will see you guys all on Monday.